Well, thank you, Caitlin. That was a great session. And it's funny that not really funny, but you mentioned the tornado warning. I had to look back because I remember being in the room back in 2014. And we had Secretary Johnson and Administrator Fugate, we had you, and I believe the CEO of the Weather Channel was actually at the podium when everyone's phone went off, and we thought it was something that he had cooked up. But fortunately it wasn't, and there was no real tornado in Washington, just a warning. But it's good to be prepared, and I think that was a good reminder for everybody that day. Up next, we have U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. Secretary Mayorkas is the first Latino immigrant confirmed to serve as Secretary of DHS. He's also led a distinguished 30-year career as a law enforcement official and a nationally recognized lawyer in the private sector. Over the years, he served as Deputy Secretary of DHS and also Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. During his tenure at DHS, he's led the development and implementation of DACA. He's negotiated cybersecurity and Homeland Security agreements with foreign governments. He's led the department's response to Ebola and Zika, helped build and administer the Blue Campaign, which is a campaign that combats human trafficking. He's also developed an emergency relief program for orphaned youth following the tragic January 2010 earthquake in Haiti. He is not only a great secretary, but he is a tremendous humanitarian. Secretary Mayorkas, it's an honor to have you with us here today.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mark, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation for having me join you today. Thank you to my colleagues at FEMA and representatives from every level of government, from the private sector to nonprofits and academia, for joining us today. Together, we are here to find solutions and strategies to build a more resilient nation. But what does that mean in practice? For us, for the Department of Homeland Security, resilience means ensuring we have no single points of failure in moments of emergency or disaster. It means our operations are geographically distributed, so a single flood or tornado or cyber attack does not limit our ability to continue to meet our mission. And importantly, it means that when disaster strikes anywhere in our country, the American people can count on us to respond quickly and effectively. For your businesses and communities, resilience may take on different meanings surrounding what it takes to withstand the impacts of a disaster and recover rapidly should the worst occur. While it can be difficult to define resilience, it's not so hard to identify its success in action. We see it in communities across the country. To give one example, in 2012, the city of Colorado Springs was threatened by the outbreak of the Waldo Canyon fire. By the time the blaze was out, over 340 homes were destroyed, 45 others were significantly damaged, and 2 citizens lost their lives. Since that time, Colorado Springs has implemented a stringent set of building codes to improve community resilience in the face of future firestorms. Out of that tragedy, they built back stronger than before. They gave life to the promise of resilience. Too often it takes a disaster like that one to truly appreciate the gaps and close them. And our department is here to be your partner, to help our businesses and local communities preserve people's security, protect their livelihoods, and save lives. We saw that partnership play out time and again over the course of the unprecedented crisis of the past year. When COVID-19 struck our communities and shuttered our businesses, we worked hand in hand with different industries to strengthen our national response. We overcame unique obstacles posed by this pandemic. We fortified our supply chains. We deployed teams from FEMA to set up community vaccination centers. And we will continue to support the private sector in its efforts to protect its employees, its customers, and our people. Confronting this challenge together could not be more central to preserving our physical and economic well-being in the 21st century. The same could be said of addressing our climate emergency, a generational task that demands our collective energy, our undivided attention, and our unflinching commitment to resilience across the board. This crisis takes a toll on our jobs, our businesses, our health, and well-being every day. And from the president to our department and across the board, we are not just focused on reactive disaster response and recovery, but on making proactive investments in resilience. Rather than wait for intensifying storms and eroding coastlines to wash away our communities, we are acting now to reduce the harms associated with extreme heat, drought, wildfires, floods, and more. Our department has established key partnerships with the Departments of Defense and Energy and the General Services Administration to leverage our efforts and stand up our current resilience framework, a roadmap that applies common principles across our operations to identify, assess, prioritize, and protect the department's critical infrastructure. We're also aligning our resources to our cause. Through FEMA and the Coast Guard, we have issued requests for public input, seeking out innovative ideas to boost our nation's resilience. With FEMA's leadership, we released a guide for local communities and the private sector on how to build resilience and reduce the health and economic risks connected with climate change. And we are committing record levels of resources to this effort. That's why the president announced $1 billion in grants through FEMA's Pre-Disaster Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program, or BRIC, as it's commonly known. That is double what we provided last year. Simply put, our administration is stepping up to the plate with policies and programs that make a difference, but we can't do it alone. Thankfully, we do not have to, because we have an advantage. We have you, the individuals at this conference, ready to get the job done. Thank you for being our leaders and our partners every single day. Thanks so much.